Happy morning, children. How are you all? We are in the last session before term 1 examination. So today's session will be the last session with the supplementary lesson 5, the Happy Prince. With this, the term 1 portions gets over. Next is your part. You have to prepare for your exam well and you have to do your exams. The time which is given for preparation, utilize it and you have to score good marks. Will you do it? Shall we get into today's session then? Okay, it is going to be a session of 15 minutes where I am going to give you an outline of a story, The Happy Prince, and you are going to read the text because it's a meaningful story and in the same way it's a thought-provoking story. Shall we start with the lesson now? To start with the lesson, let me introduce the author of the work. Oscar Wilde is the writer of the story, The Happy Prince. And this writer, Oscar Wilde, is a familiar person to you. He is a well-known writer. Last year, you had a lesson in your supplementary book titled as The Selfish Giant, which is written by Oscar Wilde, where we have studied the story in detail, and I think so you still remember the story, which is written by Oscar Wilde, The Selfish Giant. A very good story, which is meaningful and which depicts the qualities of human being. So in the same stream, we are going to have one more story which is written by Oscar Wilde. The title of the story is The Happy Prince. Shall we start with the story now? So this introduction of the author is enough. Let us start with the story now. Before getting into the story, I would like to tell you that Oscar Wilde has written many fairy tales and he has written a collection of storybooks which is for children of your age. And there are some illustrated version, abridged version of his short stories, abridged version of his stories. If you are going to read his stories, you will get the interest of going for the next book which he has written. Even the story which we are going to see today, it has a very good essence where you can imbibe something from the story. Just I am going to highlight the story from the idea which is given in the surface level, like I am going to tell you the theme of the story. The same is being given in other stories also. And here I have given you a picture of the selfish giant, where you could see last year you had the story The Selfish Giant. You could see the change in his character, the transformation in his character, in the character of the selfish giant, where he comes to a realization that being a human is more important than human being. Okay, so this is what all these qualities you will learn from the short stories of Oscar Wilde. To start with today's lesson, the title of the story is The Happy Prince. What is the title of the story? The title of the story is The Happy Prince. When you look at the title of the story, what is your reflection on the title, or how will you define the title? Come on, you can just throw your ideas. What is your feeling about the title, The Happy Prince? Whereas the story which we studied last year is titled as The Selfish Giant. So here you are going to see a story, The Happy Prince, who is not a person over here, but he stands as a statue. He stands as a statue, and that statue is made of gold. It is not only made of gold. When you read the story, you will come to know the happy prince will have a sword in his hand. It will have a gemstone in it, and his eyes will have the gemstone, and his chest will also have. That is, you know that the dress which the prince will wear, the king will wear, such kind of dress which is decorated with gemstones, and the full statue is golden statue. And here in the statue you can find a bird. That bird is called as swallow bird. It comes from some other place due to some climatic changes, seasonal changes. It wishes to stay here in this statue. You would have seen in many churches or in temples, in the tallest building, the birds will build its nest and it will stay there for some time, for the season. The same happens in the story. This swallow bird reaches the statue and finds that it is a place for it to stay for some time till it visits the next place. When it starts staying there, you could see the bird and the statue will have a emotional connect. They both will get into an emotional connect where the feelings of the happy prince is shared with the swallow bird, and it also helps him. As you know that, and as I told you, the statue has no life, but the story will be taken in a perspective as if the statue has life, is a living being. You have to imagine things. And when we move on to the next slide, you could see here the statue will be located at the middle of the city in a tall thing, in a tallest pillar, so that the happy prince from there will be able to observe what is happening in his city, what is happening to his people. Why it has been designed like that? The reason is the happy prince, when he was alive and when he ruled, he was completely for the people. He served for the people. It was not like king monarchy. He served for the people. He understood the difficulties of the people. That is the reason why he got a statue in the middle of the town and in the tallest pillar, so that he'll be able to notice how his people are. The story begins with a statue in a form of golden jeweled statue, which is erected on a tall column. Column is nothing but a pillar looking over the city. How the statue is located, as I have shown you here, it is erected on a tall pillar so that the happy prince could see everything what happens in the city. And the story is set with the backdrop of poverty which prevails in the Victorian lands during the period of Victorian land. Why it is called as Victorian land? You know about Queen Victoria who ruled. So the story is set with the backdrop of poverty. All these are some important points. Victorian era, we used to say like Victorian era, Victorian land. After the session, you are going to tell me what is called Victorian land. So the whole city will be under poverty. And the story is also set with the backdrop of poverty. The Happy Prince is a classic story which portrays the love, friendship, selflessness and compassion, which is reflected through the character of the statue. The statue has no life, but it is being told that the statue has life. And there is an emotional connect between the statue and the bird. So there is love, friendship, selflessness and compassion between them, which appeals to the audience of all ages. So it is the story not only meant for children. When I read the story, I enjoyed it. If I am going to suggest this story to my friends, to my colleagues, I can give you assurance that they will enjoy it. So one such story is The Happy Prince. The idea expressed by the author is the prince becomes successful in his aim of serving community even after the death. When he is in the form of statue, he serves the society, and there is a selfless act of service to mankind. Just to take down all these ideas, you can pause the video and take down all these ideas where I am giving you the main idea of the story. We are going for the analysis of the story. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. This is a very true statement. Yes, if your thoughts are going to be good, your life will be good. If your thoughts are going to be happy, your life will be happy. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. The story highlights the love of the happy prince and the swallow. Their self-sacrifice is also being portrayed here. This element of self-sacrifice, you can find it throughout the story, children. If I am going to ask you a question like, highlight the idea of self-sacrifice, you have to write it from the point of happy prince and you have to write it from the point of the swallow bird. So it is being portrayed in both these characters. And at the end of the story, you could see that this bird will stay with the statue for some time, and finally there will be a climatic change where the poor swallow, the bird, becomes weak and it dies in the feet of the happy prince. How the story ends? God will send a messenger to take two most precious things from the city. Finally, how the story ends? God will send his messenger to take two most precious things from the society, from the city. Whereas his messenger, the angels, brought the dead swallow and the leaden heart of the happy prince. Because according to the angels, these two things, the swallow and the happy prince, are the precious things in the city. It's because of their self-sacrifice. It's because of their love, compassion, selflessness, all these attributes. And you could see there, they get placed in the heavenly abode. Heavenly abode means in paradise. The same happens in the story of selfish giant. We can have a good comparison. So the thought which is conveyed through the story is something eternal. It has an eternal essence. Read the story, children. While you read the story, you will come to know that this story is similar to the selfish giant story, where you will come to know the qualities of human being which is important in life. Read the story, enjoy the story. Okay, read it out. It will take an hour to complete, or it will take 2 hours to complete the story. But once you finish reading the story, you will just get a feeling over there that you feel like sharing it with your friends, with your parents. Share with them. It's a beautiful story, and some of you will come to a realization that I have already heard this story. So read the beautiful story. We'll meet during the revision classes. Expecting all your participation in Google Meet live sessions. Thank you.